Good day and good evening, and welcome to the Moogle Treasure Trove event stream. With me, Chaiji, but you can just call me Kai. So, the way this stream is going to work is that, well, first I'll say hi to everyone, then I'll go over how the Moogle Treasure Trove works from the start, in case there's anyone watching that is like, I don't know what this even is, or how to get started. And we'll go over some of the things you can do to participate in the event and some of the rewards that are in the event so that you know what we're dealing with. After that, we will probably just do some of the things that you can do to farm Mogtomes and just hang out and have fun. Maybe we'll talk about some of them. That's pretty much the plan. Now, with that, hey Chris, hey Caetsu, hey Seras, hey Cat Damon, hey Vince, hey Yumi, hey Ham, hey Orkney, hey Traverse, and hey Derpy. I hope you're all doing very well. So, the way to participate in the... Hey Sarah, hope you're doing well as well. The way to participate in the Moogle Treasure Trove is you start by going to any of the starting cities. So Limsa, Lominsa, Gridania, or Uldar. I'll go to Limsa just because it was at the top. Doesn't really matter. Then you will probably notice there's like an extra concentrated blob of people over here talking with this Moogle. What you do is you talk with them. They will probably walk you through the idea of the Mogpendium right then and there. In case they don't, there should be like a consult the Mogpendium button. If you press it, you will see this menu. You can access this menu from anywhere. You don't actually have to talk with a Moogle. You access it by opening your duty list, click collections, and there it is. And you can just like put it somewhere on your bars if you like. This Moogle is the one that sells all of the rewards. And something that might be worth keeping in mind is that if you hold on to your Mogtomes until after the event, you will be able to buy some things with the previous events tomes. For sometimes you can buy everything that was on offer, in fact. But if you wait too long, there will only be one thing you can buy, if anything. Like at some point they'll be so old that you can't even buy this with them. I don't know if you want this with them. So, you know, spend whatever you have left when the event is over. And there's a bunch of things you can get. I believe the only thing that is unique, quote-unquote unique, to this particular Mogtome event is this Emerald Kabi earring. The rest is obtainable through other means, as far as I know. For example, this Ufiti horn, I believe, comes from Ishgard Restoration. The Gabriel Alpha identification key comes from loot boxes from Boja. And for example, some of these mounts that are on offer are actually just drops from either old extremes or bought from a tribe or something. So you can just farm them. Like this is just an alternative way of getting them. Yeah. See, where is it even? I don't think I can actually... Oh, it's there! A tiny... You can't really see it. Like, it's hidden behind the scaly phones. Right. So, consider what items you want from this event that is worth thinking about. Now, I'll go back to my house. In the meantime, hey Clement, hey Bronzo. Hope you're both doing well. And hey Giraheen, hope you're doing well as well. Right, by the way, that is the Ufiti horn, I believe. So, how do you get Mogtomes? Well, you look at the Mogpendium, and it will show you all the ways you can get Mogtomes. Like, actually all of them. It'll just show you what you can do. The standard objectives shown here. And the important thing is you can see here that the first hunt is finished. The second hunt is underway. You want to look at this one specifically, just to remove any confusion. It's this one. All of these objectives are infinitely spammable if you do Castrum Meridianum 30 times. I don't know why you'd want to do that, but if you did, you would get 4 tomestones every time you did it. Don't know why you would, but you can. There are probably better options than that. And there's a bunch of options here. I'm not sure which one is the best one, but I can say that I had a lot of success essentially parking my character in the gold saucer. Just parking my character in the gold saucer. And, like, while I was doing something else. Like, maybe I was watching something. Maybe it was, like, writing a manuscript for a video or something. Like, I was doing something else. And every time a gate came up, they come up every 20 minutes on the dot. So 20, 40, and on the hour. I went and did it. Just participated in the gate. And you get anywhere between 1 and 10 Mogtomes every time. I just did that for, like, an afternoon. And then I had, like, 100. So that is a way to do that. And yeah, if you want to find me in game, we are here on Louis Soir Chaos. And also, thank you, Matthew, for celebrating 7 months as a member of the channel. Thank you so much. 7 months of Pink Cultist. Thank you. But that is the so it's plot 36, ward 29. That is the standard objectives. These are infinitely spammable. So if you've done the rest, we will get to those, and you are not satisfied, you want more, you can do any of these to your heart's content. The important thing to keep in mind here is that you only get rewarded the Mogtomes if you do it synced. It does not count if you use unrestricted party without level sync. Which does mean that if you can solo any of this content synced, you can toggle both and just do it if you like. It's not very efficient, but you can. The important thing is that unsynced does not work. But speaking of non-spammable options, every week, while this event is ongoing, and this event will last until, from what I know, until Dawn Trail comes out. Which means, I believe your last chance to do this will be the 25th of June. The reason being that the 26th and 27th, the servers will actually be down. And then the 28th, Dawn Trail comes out, so no more Mogtomes. So 25th, the Tuesday 25th of June will be your last chance to farm this. Of June, remember. Not May, June. Which means that we have a total of 6 weeks of weekly objectives. And let's start with that. The weekly objective is random and can be a selection of things. I believe it can be pretty much anything on this list. It might even not even be limited to this list. But, like, it can be a whole selection of stuff, and 2 players may not have the same objective. So if you're lucky, you can, like, maybe end up with the same objective. But it's just one objective every week, and you want to do this, like, unless it's really, really inconvenient, because it gives you 20 just like that. Like, this duty took me, like, 5 minutes to do. In fact, I didn't even queue for this. I just did like a mental roulette and I ended up here. So I just got free, and you get the free 20, and if it happens to be on the list, you also get the standard objective completion, so like double down. The Minimog challenge is also something that happens every week. However, unlike the weekly objectives, this is the same for everyone, and you can do either one of the tasks presented, but doing both will not give you extra. So, like, for this week, you have 5 fates in Labyrinthos or Thavnair, which I guess, you know, players that are on free trial cannot do. Or win triple triad against Boscaron in South Shroud. By the way, I tried like 5 times and I'm not good at triple triad. I couldn't win. I tried looking up something like someone else suggested like you could do, but I couldn't find the cards they suggested, because well, I mean, you make a deck and they go, you need Sid, and I'm like, alright, so where's Sid? I don't know. And then I gave up. Boscaron is Boscaron, for those that are curious for the challenge, is the bartender here. And the owner of the bar. Small Guy has talked with him a few times. But yeah, either one of these works. You just have to do one and you get a cool 10 Mogtomes. Finally, the Timog challenge is one time only for this event. Just once. You just have to do it once. Last season, it was ocean fishing. You had to, what was it? You needed to get over 8,000 points in a single ocean fishing voyage. It's doable. You don't have to be a genius to do it, or like a master of fishing or ocean fishing to do it. But you need to get lucky. This time, you need to clear floor 100 in Palace of the Dead, which, again, you don't have to be a master to do this. You don't even have to be amazing to do this. You just have to, you know, do it. If you want to be sure of completion, one thing you can do is try and find 3 friends and do it with. And then you get a cool 50 tombstones. Maybe you are going to do floor 100 anyway. There's technically a story attached to Palace of the Dead that ends on floor 100, so, you know, something to consider. But that's essentially it. So this is actually a Palace of the Dead stream. I don't know. I mean, that it could be, but is that really how you would think would be the most entertaining way to see me farm Mogtomes? Wouldn't that be a little bit of a twist? Imagine if I can't even get to floor 100 before we kind of go late. But that is essentially the Moogle Treasure Trove. And some of you probably saw the previous Treasure Trove event, noticed that a lot of players, and yes, I am going to grab onto this, a lot of players were like, nah, the rewards suck, why do they suck? The rewards don't suck, it's just that you were expecting more. The Moogle Treasure Trove, small history lesson, the Moogle Treasure Trove is basically an event to just give you something to do until the next patch. It is commonly brought out about a month before the next major patch. So, you know, out of a 4-month cycle, you would have, you know, month 1, everyone's captured into the stuff in the patch. Then there's like a few months where like the people that are not as fast hang out and do it. And then in the last month, those that are completely dry on stuff to do, they have this. But part of the reason why a lot of players have reached the point where they're like, the Treasure Trove rewards suck, is because the game has been around for so long and been extra popular for so long that a lot of the rewards that the Moogle Treasure Trove offers is something you'd probably have anyway. Like, for example, that Ufiti horn. If you wanted it, if you wanted that mount, you would have it by now. The week before last week, on Small Kai's side quest, we went to Boja, and I believe 2 players got the Gabriel Alpha identification key. I don't know if one of them got 2 of them, but like, Small Kai was handed one. Like, there was so many keys going around that it was just, have one on the house. Yeah, exactly. Derby got it twice. So if you wanted that mount, you could have it. You could have had it. So some of these things are not like that incredible when you really think about it. But as Sarah says, it's fantastic for newer players, and I think newer players is a good way to put it, because the Moogle Treasure Trove is in a weird spot, because the way it is presented, many of the challenges you'll be faced with in this event, you might not be able to do if you are a new player. But if you've completed like the Endwalker story recently and looking for something to do, you can do all this. You can do all these things, and some of these challenges invite you to try something new. For example, last season they were like, do ocean fishing. A lot of people did ocean fishing for the first time to get this. This time they're sending you to Palace of the Dead. Do a deep dungeon. So like that is something to do. But if you're like a heavy veteran player and you've done everything, yeah, then there's not that much for you to do. Like then you might not actually want any of the items. Then I guess you could buy like there's like stackable treasure maps. You could buy those, I guess. But yeah, that is like the gist of the Moogle Treasure Trove. So I hope if there's any questions about the Moogle Treasure Trove, that like something you don't get, or some sort of follow-up question, you're welcome to like ask it in the chat. And if you're watching this after the fact, you're watching the VOD, you can ask it in the comments. I usually see it on I usually see it. So if there is a question, I'll probably answer. Ishirakai and Tristan and Sip and Gazel, hope you're doing well. I also, like, my strategy to the Moogle Treasure Trove is that I also just walk up to the Moogle and write down all of the items I don't have. Like a shopping list, you could say. Hey, Zenger Krieg and Kylan, hope you're both doing well. Like that's how this is going to work. It's basically, if there's something you don't get, you ask, and then we'll see what we can do. Yeah, I don't know. I'm not sure how we should go about farming. I gonna be perfectly honest, I planned this stream 2 days ago, right? At least. And I learned today the old Timog is deep dungeons. So, yeah, that might be a little bit much. And the horns from last time? What do you mean? What horns? What do you mean? Just want the horn for glamour purposes. I think the horns are also on this season. Let's check again. These? Yeah, you can't even dye them. Right. Is it the old currency and I'm blind? Oh, they are on the current one. Oh, that is funny. I didn't even notice. Fair enough. Profian says it would be really nice if there were more options to get the tomestones for this, as a fairly new player myself. Well, To be fair, it's working on it. Let me put it like this, Profnian. Before this one, like before the first hunt, the only way to get Mogtomes were basically, if you remove this one and this one, something like this was all you had. Which meant that often the grind boiled down to Blue Mage team. Hopefully you have all the good spells and a good gear set. Oh, you don't? Sucks. And then you just like plow through whatever it is. There was one season where this one was on the list. The one with all the nodes. A full team of Blue Mages can beat this in under a minute. And it gave 2 tomes each. You could beat it in under a minute. So people just spammed this one. And most seasons for years, Aurum Vale was on the list. And I think it gave 3 or 4. And a team of Blue Mages that know what they're doing can beat it, like speedrun style, in 4 minutes. But if you don't have Blue Mages, then it takes more time. So they're working on it. I think we're in a good place right now because like you can grind Mogtomes without it just being spamming one thing and one thing only. Beverage Farm remembers. But that is weird that the rewards from the previous season is in the current list. Imagine if tomestones were given via fates. Well, a little bit. Oh no, the Blue Mages are dying! But yeah, what we could start with for this is, well, we could go. Another Blue Mage died. What we could start with, well, it's getting a little chaotic. What we could start with is show you all where this week's triple Triad character is. One way to get to it is go to Quarry Mill. And you just go this way. I'm glad to hear you found them helpful, Profnian. Thank you so much. But it's basically the triple Triad match over here. Just go over here. And there he is. You just have to win against him once. Now, good luck with that. As I said, I tried 5 times and then I got annoyed. Because, I mean, he has a good set of cards, and I don't because I'm bad at triple Triad. If you don't want to want to fight him in, I can just show you. Doesn't cost anything to lose. The rules changed. Earlier today it was played with an open hand. But he has the same cards and he's playing them in the same order, so that's fun. Well, that didn't count, apparently. Hmm. What? When a card is played, if 2 or more of the sides are touching other cards, and the sum of the ranks on the... And the sum of the ranks on the touching sides are identical to the sums on the other touching sides, the other cards are... And then he plays there. Yep. And he plays Moogle there. Yes. Well, Ymir, I guess your cards are just, like, nicely ranked to fight him. I don't know what to tell you. I don't know if you're seeing this, but you can see how my cards are just inconveniently ranked in such a way that it doesn't really work. Like, if I play this here, then he'll just do that. Although, that might work. Or not. And places the Moogle there. Yep. You can change the order of your deck. How do you change the order? I'm genuinely just using the autofill. I don't know how to play triple Triad, I'm sorry. Sarah says, I don't think you can win with autofill. It's hard to say, because the last season we had like a week where it was triple Triad and I won first try because my, like, basically these cards. And then he does Moogle there. Oh! What you do is you just complain. Then he'll let you have it, apparently. That's apparently how you do it. I think part of the problem, Ymir, is that if you use recommended, I'm reasonably sure that the game just grabs like 5 cards that are deemed good, which means that if the 5 cards that I have that are really good have like a weird ranking order, so that like I just have like, for example, really weird defense on the left or something, so that like, and he might have goods on the right, so he just keeps winning on exchanges like that. And because it's just randomly put together with autofill, that doesn't work. That is kind of how it goes with these kinds of like, just make my deck for me, is it doesn't know what we need. Also, congratulations, anime freaks. The oldest trick in the book. Yes, exactly. Hey, are we fit? Hope you're doing well. That was also what happened last season, is that we started the event, like the stream for the event with, well, I have this, and triple triad is hard, and people were like, nah, he's easy. I went over and was like, alright, I'll show you it's hard. Fought, like, took the match and won first try, and just sat there like, well... I know I can make decks. I actually have one. It just turns out that it's not very good against Boscaron. And it happens to be very similar to the deck that the autofill gave me. I don't quite understand what the plus rule means. It was very confusing. What was he said? When a card is played, if 2 or more of the sides are touching other cards, and the sum of the ranks on the touching sides are identical to the sums on the other sides, the other cards are flipped. So if there's if you're placing a card and you're placing it between 2 cards, then what? If the left, let's say there's a card on the left, on the left and the right of the card you're playing. If the right side of the left card is equal to the left side on the right card, they lose? Or what? Yeah, I don't quite get it. I haven't played very much Triple Triad. I just have a lot of cards because they drop. This card on the bottom had an 8 facing up. Right, that one. And the card I controlled on the left had an 8 on the right side. My next card had 8s on top, left, and bottom. Turned top naturally and turned bottom by plus. Oh, if they're equal, right? So it... The plus means that draw wins, is that right? How strange. But that makes good sense. That's actually often a problem I've found, is that you're like, oh yeah, I'm 1 short, like 1 point short from taking that one. But if draw wins, like the placing draw wins, then that's neat. What do we do now? I had expected to have more to do. We could explore ways to farm the event. That is something we've tried before. Wanna kill chaos? We're here to kill chaos. I remember that a long time ago, I think at this point, one of the strategies that people used, which was really weird, was to farm Deltascape v3.0, often with a lot of tanks. Which some of you might be saying, why would you do that? And the reason was that I don't think it's this one. Like, there's 2 types of tank achievements. One of them is progressed by was progressed by doing Deltascape V3.0 synced. So people basically just did this to like double down. You both get the tomestones from the event, and you also progress the achievement. Yes, that's true. Some people would do it unsynced as well, specifically just to do that. But you needed to do it synced specifically to get the Mogtomes on top. And 8 tanks can actually do it quite fast if you're actually good. And this fight isn't hard. Sometimes you'd also have some blue mages. It's particularly funny because I specifically remember... I can't remember it was because that specific season just had like bad options for farming Mogtomes. But there was a season where people legitimately just farmed this one for the Mogtomes, and you like, you know, you would see like party finder groups for it, and you would just have like a tank in the group, and like 4 blue mages, and like extra, like other people that didn't have blue mage like geared to do it. You didn't need everyone to be blue mages, not at all. But the funny thing was that often that extra, there would be a very high chance that they would go tank, because, I mean, they also want to progress their achievement. And the funny thing about that was that if you had enough blue mages, then it didn't really matter what everyone else was. But if anyone in the group was found lacking in any way, then the fight got prolonged significantly, because there's this intermission that happens after a certain amount of time. And that, you know, if you're forced to deal with that, it takes you like +1 minute. I think it's +1 minute. And the thing is, this gives 2 tomestones. And I've talked about this before in terms of like farming efficiency. It's a little weird, perhaps, but basically, if you're out to farm Mogtomes by just spamming something, typically, I don't know how good the options are this time around, but typically, half a tomestone per minute. So basically, if something takes you 10 minutes, you should get 5 tomestones. Is like, that's a decent farm. Like, that's pretty good. Sometimes you can get something better, sometimes you can get something a lot better, but half a tomestone per minute is pretty good. Which is, like, for example, the reason why this is bad. This is kind of bad, and this is really bad. But if you don't have other options, for whatever reason, I'm not going to ask questions on that, then, like, I mean, let's say you're doing Praetorium and you're doing the dishes in all the cutscenes. So really, you're not like quote-unquote wasting time sitting through the cutscenes. Then 7 is pretty good, right? That's also the reason why like gates, like just sitting in the gold saucer and spamming gates is not that good. Because it's 1 to 10. It's 1 to 10. And there's 1 gate every 20 minutes, which means if you go here and like are actively sitting here like knife and fork ready to go, and you're here to farm Mogtomes, this sucks. Like, then this strategy sucks, because maybe the gate you get gives you 4. It has to give you 10 for it to be worth the wait, and it will rarely give you 10. So you like, if you're there actively farming, then you would like maybe hang out on the gold saucer and do the gate, and then once you've done the gate, maybe you'll do like you'll queue into a dungeon or something that like takes less time than the time until the next gate, and then you'll do the next gate, like back and forth. But that's the key here, is like time optimization if you're farming. DSR says somehow I'm closer to the second Paladin achievement than the first one? That is weird. But that is the idea. Which ones that are really good is usually among all of these, sometimes there's a dungeon that is really good. And often it has something to do with blue mages, which means that It's probably one of the dungeons that give 4. It's probably one of the dungeons that give 4. It wouldn't surprise me if it's one of these. Especially, like, the more cheese blue mages are allowed to do, the more effective it is. And a Realm Reborn dungeons are more likely to just allow blue mages to cheese for some reason. So it's probably one of these. We're really getting down and dirty with it. But aside from that, if you don't have blue mages, something in the first raid tier of Omega is probably one of your best bets, because they don't sink you very far down. So you can just monster smash the bosses extremely fast. It's just about how much health does the boss have. And the reason why V3.0 is often pretty good is because usually the boss's health bar is balanced around the fact that there is an intermission, for example. So if there is an intermission, then the boss would have less HP so that the fight isn't too long. But if you can kill the boss fast enough that the intermission doesn't exist, then the intermission doesn't exist, and you save a minute. Can't wait to get nothing but dead ends and 90 roulette still Dawn Trail. Yeah, that would be weird. I actually, earlier today, did a bunch of mentor roulettes, and I got 1 duty on this list. 1. And was this one. So I was very lucky. So who knows? The simple fact of the matter is that a lot of players have looked at the rewards and gone, it kinda sucks. So maybe they're not going to spam that way. Last Mogtome event didn't have a good blue mage option. I think the closest you got to a good blue mage option was like E1 or E2. Something like that. And like you could do it pretty fast, but it wasn't like... It wasn't Coils of Bahamut fast, where you get 2 tomes per minute. Like, we've never seen something like that since or before. Ever. That's why I'm saying, like, half a tome per minute is really good. But I think... With that said, we would have to figure out something to actually farm. What would be fun to farm? Any votes? Anyone that want to farm something specific? Also, hey Alejandro and Warcraft Traveler. Hope you both doing very well. I've sorted so many socks during Praetorium. Umia says kill chaos. That's E09. Hey Coco, hope you're doing well. Rival is the only way. That is actually a really funny one. We could talk about that one a little bit. PvP is also a way to farm Mogtomes. Was it the 10-year anniversary that had Battle on the Big Bridge? I think so. If you want to check, I actually streamed a Blue Mage farm of Battle on the Big Bridge months ago, like back when that was happening. So you could actually see how it was done for like 3 hours. But yeah, one way to farm Mogtomes is also through PvP. The key here, and that's a little bit weird, is that you get 5 if you win and 3 if you don't win. And that might be a weird way to phrase it, but basically first place gets 5, not first place gets 3. It's not second place gets 4, as far as I know. Kind of weird, that. And Rival Wings usually takes much less time than like Frontline. So that's why people recommend that, but it doesn't pop naturally, so it's not that good. 3 hours of pressing Missile? Missile doesn't work on Battle on the Big Bridge. The way that you do it is that the first part, you legitimately use all of your cooldowns to Ruffle Stomp Greg, and then he runs off. Then you have one pair of blue mages do Ram's Voice into Ultra Vibration on the first pack, and run off to the second pack and do Ultra Vibration on that one as well. And the reason why you do it twice is because it quote-unquote takes too long for the mobs to run. If you really want to optimize. And then when you get to the second part of the boss fight, basically you have all of the blue mages use Whistle, Moonflute, and then Final Sting. And I believe you need 6 blue mages to do it, then he will die. Which is the reason why you would usually bring 7 blue mages and a tank. You might be saying, why a tank? Basically, if Greg randomly decides to smack the wrong person at the wrong time in that second round, you might not actually kill him if you have just 8 blue mages. And given that you only needed like 6 blue mages to do it, it was like, it was free to take that extra safety measure. And you might also be thinking, if you only need 6 blue mages, why bring 7? And that's even dumber. That is actually even dumber. I was the host of this Party Finder group. And at one point, I had, some people join, and I went over what you need, because here's the thing, the first part of the fight, if just some of the blue mages have, like, all the spells, you could quickly, like, run through Greg just fine. Like, a lot of blue mages didn't really, like, most blue mages just needed Whistle, Moonflute, and Final Sting, and that was fine. You could have, like, about 4 carry blue mages, and you could have 3 that were just like the bare minimum, and that would have worked. And the funny thing is that because of that, when I had people join, I was like, alright, do you have Whistle, Moonflute, and Final Sting? And also, who has Ram's Voice and Ultra Vibration? So that we can figure out who does the thing. And the funniest part about that is that more than once, as I recall, I had some rando like join and go, yeah, I have those spells. And then we would get to the part, like 5 or 6 blue mages, like 5 blue mages would die. 1 blue mage would just that was still alive, would look at the carnage in front of them and just be like, huh. And the other one would go, oh, that's what you meant. No, I don't have those spells. And at that point, all you can do is sit there thinking, what did you think I meant when I asked you if you had those spells? That's the reason why you had 7 blue mages. You basically had an extra in case someone was an idiot. And in terms of the survivor tank, if Greg died from the final blue mage suiciding and no one was left alive, right? If Greg died, you would win. That's how blue mages do a lot of things. Is if the boss dies from your Final Sting, then it counts as a win. That's actually how blue mages solo a lot of stuff. Is that you can skip all Shiva's intermission by just one-shotting her. Blue mages have been able to do that since, I can't remember if it was level 50 or 60. I think it was level 60. They've been able to instantly beat Shiva Extreme unsynced. Very nice for the Wondrous Tales. And that's just, you're just banking on the fact that if it's the final blow, then that's all you need. But yes, indeed, the purpose of the tank was, first of all, that way Greg couldn't randomly swing at and interrupt any blue mages. And Greg couldn't kill anything randomly because the tank could take it. Don't forget your orb. Yeah, exactly, Iterate. Average life of party finder leader. You ask them if they know what they're going into. They say yes, and then when they're presented with what they're going into, they go, wait, this isn't what I thought this was. And you asked them, and they said yes. They just said, like, they just blankly say yes. Like, it's a common problem. A little side thing, but it's a classic problem that people make party finder groups. The comment on the group says what the group is about, someone joins, and then when, like, for example, it could be that it's party finder for, like, I don't know, Rameau Extreme. And it says in the comment, minimum item level, no echo. Some person joins. At some point, it's asked, everyone is aware this is minimum item level, no echo, right? This person says yes. The group fills. They enter the duty. This person goes, why are we not doing this unsynced? There's nothing you can do about that. Leah says, clear party bot. Oh, don't worry, I watched a clear video. Yeah, I can do that. I could do that. I've never done that before, but I could easily do that. So it says, we're using X strat, new person joins, but Y strat is better. Yeah. Yeah. Then that's where you go, so why did you join a group for X strat? Have you thought about that? The absolute worst ones, I think the absolute worst ones is exactly, Cat Damon mentions blind groups. For those that don't know what a blind group is, a blind group is doing the duty for the first time, potentially, and they have not looked up a guide. They have not looked up how to do the fight. They're essentially going in knowing nothing about the fight, and they want to figure it out themselves. As in, they go in, they see the boss, if they put down markers, it's like, could be something like, well, usually when you fight a boss, like clock positions isn't a bad idea to have down. Like, they're not putting down the markers because they know what they need. They haven't pulled the boss yet. They don't know what the boss can do at all. Maybe they know from the normal version, but ultimately they have no idea. So they're blind. And the thing is, if you join such a group and you're not blind, that's questionable. Sometimes it's okay. I think the best way to do it would be to say, I'm not blind, but I can keep my mouth shut. And then you'll hear from them whether they think that's okay or not. But yeah, you should be upfront about that. The reason why this matters is because anything can ruin that. If you're zone into this duty where like 7 out of 8 are blind, and you just do this, and just put down the markers immediately, it doesn't matter whether you're like, well, I don't know what the markers mean. You have those markers from somewhere. They probably are meaningful. You spoiled the group. You ruined it because you can't take that back. You can remove the markers, but they saw them. Now it's no longer completely blind. If you zone in and you start like showing a macro with positions or something, or you start explaining anything, you ruined it. And there's no way to take that back. And the reason why finally, why it would be reasonable to be upfront about this is because this gets a little specific, and sure, some players might not even notice this detail. But if you have, like, for example, take Ramuh Extreme. If you had a group going in doing Ramuh Extreme blind for the first time, synced and everything, look, that person is very small. And that person is knee-high. If you know what to do, then you can pick up 2 orbs every 10 to 15 seconds to make sure that Thunderstorm doesn't overwhelm the group. You can deal with the tether if it ever lands on you, and you can save the people that get horrified every time they do. Because you already know how to do it. And if anyone sees what you're doing, you're basically like one giant spoiler tag just running around showing them the strat. Like, you don't even have to say anything. You're literally just showing them how it's done. Which is also questionable if the group is blind. And I know that is a weird tangent on a Mogtome farming stream. But yeah, in terms of party finder stuff, read this. Read this when joining a group. Please. Read this. Thank you. Just say it looked like the normal version. Because it does. It does. But the thing is, on the normal version, you don't have to pick up any orbs. Hey Cole, hope you're doing well. You don't have to. Like, actually, you don't have to. For the tether, you'll be shocked. That's not even a pun. You don't have to. You can just die and get rest. Or you can just heal through it. Usually the tether comes up so late that it is kinda okay. Kinda. Yes, it is stupid of you. You're right. But genuinely, you don't have to use the orbs. And that's also true, Ogman. You know what? It didn't used to be like that. It's almost like they took it and made it so that the comment pops up in your chat log because there's a problem where people don't read it. You can also reset the tether by dying on the extreme if you can beat it with 3 or 4 players. It's actually complicated because I know for a fact that on the extreme version of Ramuh, the tether just, like, if one of the players that are, like, attached dies, the tether just jumps to a new player, which is the reason why often one way to wipe on Ramuh Extreme synced is if the tethers come down and they're not dealt with immediately, one of the players die, then it hops to a new player and it keeps the same intensity as far as I know, and this new player just gets jumped with this sudden damage spike, and then they die, and then it jumps to another person, and then they die, and then it jumps to another person, and they die, so it just goes and then everyone's dead. But that's only on extreme as far as I know. I'm pretty sure on hard, it just, like, disappears if one of the people on the tether dies. So yeah, like, I'm not saying that, oh yeah, on the hard or normal version, the mechanics are completely irrelevant. It's just that because of the challenge of the normal or hard version, it's reasonably possible that you could have beaten it without learning anything. So going, well, it's the same as the hard version, I'm hardly spoiling anything, doesn't matter. Exactly, metal pipe falling sound effect. Bong. And that's also true, Clement. E5. There you need the orbs. There you need to remember your orbs. Leah says the best way to wipe is to get the tether, grab 2 orbs, die. The next one doesn't have enough orbs to cleanse, and so just go through the entire party. And also, hey, Cyanide, hope you're doing well. I can't remember if this was on stream, but I do remember there was this point. I think it was on stream. We got Ramu hard in like trial roulette, and I believe and I think it was Aradel got stuck with a tether, and there was not enough orbs. So we just kind of stood there for a bit. Like, just stood there looking at each other like, well, just waited. Because, I mean, it still hurts. Like, I'm not saying that you can ignore the tether. I'm just saying that some people do anyway and somehow don't die from it. So we just stood there a little bit, considering our options. Hey, Kaito! Yes, you can. Anything that is on the standard objectives list are infinitely repeatable. Anything on this menu, specifically standard objectives, they give these tomestones every time you do them. So basically, if you're in Heaven's Ward, then like this would be your range, I think. And then you also have access to this. Like, this is also an option. What is most effective for you? I don't know, but those are your options, and you can do them infinitely. These options down here are all once per. They also say they've been claimed if you've spent them. I don't know, Emir. That kind of sound usually shows up when Coco's in the area. Oh. With that said, was there anything else suggested beyond killing Chaos? Should we kill Chaos? We could kill Chaos. I'll go over here. I'll go outside. If you want to join me for killing Chaos, which is an Omega raid fight, come over to me. Okay. I'll remake the group. How many people? Oh wow, we have a lot of people. I think we have too many people. A lot of people wants to kill Chaos. That's what I'm seeing. How many people do I have space for? We have basically 1.5 raid group. What do we do now? Right, solo tank. I think you can solo tank this. No, can you? Stranger of Paradises. By the way, and I'll say this as many times as it needs to be said, very underrated game. You should play it. You now must sing what we do with the drunken sailor? Wait, why? What do we do with the drunken sailor? Can we solo heal this? It's also an excellent question. I think we can. Should we try? How about I'll stay red mage just in case we need extra reses. Oh, whoops. Wrong menu. It's this one, yeah? Oh, he sold something. Excellent. Look, it's Chaos. We're here to kill him. Chaos, yeah, he does got hand. He's got 4 of them. 4 whole ones. Red mage without a pull time is a little bit of a risk. Another one. Yeah, be careful overlapping them. Those do give magic vulnerability, so it will kill you if you get both of them. Hey, Mayor Clanger. Hope you're doing well. I feel like it's been a while. Or were you here last time? I feel like it's been a while. Y'all's here to kill that there Chaos. Yeah, indubitably. Ow. Uh-oh. Rodro scoops. Oh, gee, Scoop. Punch. That is like Elden Ring levels of I'm gonna punch ya. Row Raggy. Oh dear. More explosions! That's fair enough, Mayor Clanger. I want it. It's mine. Ow. I think that was meant for a tank. Ow. Just be happy this Chaos doesn't full cure himself. When will White Mage get full cure? And you might be saying they have Benediction. I don't care, I want full cure separately. Oh boy. Punk. Well. Ow. We have full cure at home. What is full cure at home? Is that Benediction? Or is that lost full cure or something? Benediction upgrades to full cure and Dawn Trail. It will heal for 200% HP instead. Leaving combat is full cure at home. Ah. And I actually, and while we are on that thought, does that mean that disconnecting is hallowed ground at home? Imagine what he could do with those hands. Well, he could, for example, do like cone AoEs on his sides, and then like in front and behind him immediately after. That's one thing you could do with those hands. He actually did it. No, that's super polite. Full cure will heal the target the next time they join a duty. Actually, disconnect killed me a couple of times. I'm pretty sure that that's because the healer didn't heal you. I'm pretty sure. And you might be sitting there thinking, but that's not how hallowed ground works. That's how hallowed ground at home works. I didn't say it was good. Thank you for joining me here. Have a good dinner, I guess. Healer disconnected too. Ah, right. Ah, yes. That's what we call DDoS at home. You won't get the heals if you're disconnected? I feel like I've been able to heal someone while they've been disconnected. What do we do now? How long did that take, by the way? Four minutes? Yeah, about 4 minutes. That's, not super effective. Should we try, that, we could try, Delta V3. If people are up for it. In many people that wanna join. We'll probably need a tank. Just one though, I think will be plenty. I can be the tank. Someone else can also be the tank. That's an interesting realization, Zaf, and yeah, you should go eat something. You know what'll happen if you mention that in the Discord? You'll have like several people chasing after you and saying you should eat something. Including the ones that don't actually eat themselves. Isn't that weird? It's not a bad thing. It's all in the specific interest of looking out for each other. Not risking that one. Blech. I realized now, as we went in, that I should have just gone Summoner. And I absolutely agree, Vince. It's a good thing. It's not a bad thing. Look, a dragon. I'm gonna punch it. I should have gone Summoner. Well, we had a talk earlier on the Discord how Summoner is insanely busted at level 70. And we're doing stuff at level 70. That took like 2 minutes, right? Was that 2 minutes? With one blue mage. Hey, Tiny. Hey, Growl, I could also say. How are you doing? We haven't farmed that much. We've more talked about the concept of farm. Are you guys in Gridania? We are at the South Shroud. Like, we did a triple Triad fight and then, like, the match, and this is one of the Mogtome objectives. So, like, this isn't the worst place to hang out. So we ended up staying. Should we see if we can do it faster? And there's one very bad blue mage. I completely missed the opener because I forgot to dodge the frog transformation. Yeah, that's relatable. That is that's like the gold standard. Isn't someone realistically level 70, level 60, and the entire time after? Yeah, I mean, they get most of their toolkit finished up, like at level 70, and then they just, like, get the holes filled in. So, like, in a way. In a way. Oh. Spencer there is having a bad time. Let's try again and see if we can do it faster. And if you're wondering why you're doing this of all things, I just, like, this is one of the ways to farm it, and I wonder if this, like, how good this is, relatively speaking. And rip it. Da 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 da. Like, I like to imagine that they put in that ribbit specifically to meme on players once it is, like, once it wasn't current anymore. Because, like, that ribbit has always messed up players since, like, the dawn of farming this duty. Always. It's always funny. Yeah. The start of Kai becoming a Final Fantasy 14 speedrunner animated. I mean, this is like a pretty innocent start to that, isn't it? What do you mean I can use MP for defense? I'm pretty sure it's the damage resource. That's what it's for, right? You get 3000 and you use it. And then you make damage. You make boss die faster. That's how it's a defensive resource, right? That's how it works, right? I'm pretty sure. He used the healer's MP for defense. Hey, 2 minutes and 25 seconds. Someone's inventory is going to be really full after this. We'd probably had gone even faster. How many people got hit by the rivet at the start? I think I saw 2. We might be able to go even faster if we don't have if people don't get hit by the rivet. I'll try to call it out so that people remember this time. Well, the loot bomb. Yeah, I don't know. I'll do it now to do it on. Yeah, that's the target. If we could actually do it in under 2 minutes, then this would actually be a really, really strong farm. Reason being that would be 1 tome per minute. 2.5 minutes is really good. People should remember don't make more. You know what, Gireen? I'm actually pretty confident that people get hit by that rivet just as well. They also get hit by the glare right after. I'll say even 3 minutes is pretty good for 2 tomestones. Ribbit? Nice. Looks like no one got hit. There's 3 Bahamut's over there. What do you think? This is my collection of dragons. Aren't you using blue? We have 1 blue mage. Which means we'd be able to do this way faster with many blue mages. Oh, whoops, I should not have done that. I feel like Dark Knight was stronger on the damage. And weirdly also easier. Hey Shaq, hope you're doing well. Yeah, I don't know, Angel. It just feels like I got more damage out of Dark Knight. Maybe it's just me. I'm sure it's fine to ignore the big dragon, everyone. Two minutes and 20. It was not fine. I mean, the dragon did one thing. One wants to be tank besides you? I mean, I don't mind being tank. I'll try warrior then. If you say Dark Knight is bad, then maybe warrior's good somehow. But I think this is actually pretty effective. There's also the part, like, while I have Blue Mage and all of the spells, I'm incredibly bad at the Moon Flute opener. Like, I usually volunteer to heal or tank and stuff like that in anything in relation to Blue Mages, because then it's not as obvious that I'm terrible at it. Ribbit. Aviac, hope you're doing well. Good at the self-destruct opener. Ah, yes, a classic. My signature move. I just drop. I'm much better at utilizing Blue Mage's shenanigans than actually playing Blue Mage like extremely sweaty try-hard mode. And I'm really good at messing around with the funny spells and using it to solo stuff. That was everyone's reminder there that your character is actually only a single pixel big. I think a lot of people do that, Saf. But it is worth pointing out that like, there is a community of Blue Mages big enough that if you want it, they already have the like the optimal openers like within a week of there being new spells to be had. Wait, what to what? Yeah, exactly, Zeros. Your character is only hit by mechanics if the exact center pixel that determines your exact coordinates in the game happens to be in the like area of effect of the attack. Otherwise, you're not hit. All the rest of your character is basically just fluff and extra. The game doesn't care. It's actually a Toho game. You're actually only 1 pixel wide. 2 minutes and 11 seconds. We have a hitbox. It's 1 pixel. We all rainbow inside. I'll try Gunbreaker again. I think I'm just going to put a timer on this because it might get really boring if we're just spamming this the entire stream. But we'll at most continue doing this until the next hour starts. Then we'll try something else. We might try something else sooner than that, but I'm just putting it out there. That's like the hard stop. Ribbit. Double kill. Check, we are at the bar in South Shroud. If you pick up the Mogpendium, you can even if you don't already have one, you can also challenge the bartender for a triple Triad duel, and if you win, you get Mogtomes. Why Delta Escape 3? Because it has a rather lengthy intermission, it turns out that this boss is kinda squishy compared to the other bosses in the first raid tier of Stormblood. And the first raid tier is usually the fastest because you have much more item level advantage. So we're basically, this is the one that probably has the least amount of HP. With a big probably in front of it. Because I don't actually know. Green says, I'm not sure I've seen said intermission. Exactly, it's also used for tank mount farming, specifically because it's fast. I'm pretty sure I've done the intermission on stream. I'm pretty sure we did it on Small Kai. It's pretty fun for an intermission. It's pretty fun. I think I got hit there. Yep. They call me Popsicle. I feel like Warrior was about as fast, about as good, if not slightly better. O1N feels so long, but how much nothing happens. Yeah, I think the one scary thing that can happen in O1N is, for example, if one of the DPS gets hit by the tank buster. That can sometimes be a bit scary, but it isn't going to wipe you. I need more blue mages to do the Mandeville with me during waning nocturne. That is what we call optimizing downtime. Ribbit. Ribbit. And the healer was caught. Just be glad she doesn't spam it. Could you imagine? The worst that can happen in O1N is the boss disappearing right as I hit double down, which definitely didn't just happen. Ah, yes, the unsynced farm. That is the worst thing. It's not like I haven't noticed before, but it is something that I've started to pay attention to more recently, is how often I use an attack. I use it on time, but then the boss leaves. So you're like, yes, I did my rotation perfectly, and I got all the damage in, and then you see that the biggest hit of your entire burst didn't go through because the boss left. That's always fun. Yeah, I suppose I get the information in this fight somewhat regularly when I get this duty, like, with randoms. But many of these fights are actually also really, like, somewhat interesting if you do the minimum item level. Because then they actually get to do stuff. I know, shocking. They get to do stuff that's more entertaining. Weird how that works. Oh, 2 minutes 15. Is that a final sting there? Maybe she just like really likes frogs. Yeah, could be. Boss gets to do more stuff when you're weaker, more at 11. Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Shocking. If I can't remember if we did this in Stormblood raids, but I do remember on Eden raids, I'm pretty sure we did the minimum item level on Small Kai. I think we also did it minimum item level on most of the Stormblood ones, and not only did we do the minimum item level, I'm also pretty sure that some of the fights we didn't have a full group, so we just, you know, went in with what we had. Remember Ribbit, remember Ribbit, get ready to dodge, here it comes, here it comes. And the boss had turned. That's just mean. Everyone dodged to the side, and then the boss was just like, well, if you're not going to stand there, then I will not shoot it there. We've almost learned the ribbit. Hey, Erdel. Hope you're doing well. Tamtara and leveling roulette. That can sometimes get exciting. Like, let's say you're a healer, but you're not a scholar. Like, let's say you're a white mage. And the tank is pulling like they know what they're doing, but they don't know what they're doing. You probably know what I mean by that already, right? No defensive cooldowns. Maybe they'll use AoE. If they feel like it. You're never gonna believe this. Are you a white mage with a tank that pulls like they think they know what they're doing? Wow. Huh. This is we're getting closer and closer. The most interesting part is that as long as we can stay like clear before she casts that Spellblade Blizzard, we can we win like a second by just being able to skip that part. Also, Cole did say I was doing it for the Wondrous Trails. Fair enough. Yeah, I usually don't do that one if it is in the Wondrous Tales. Like, sometimes I do. Not that I can't do it, it's just... Cure time. Oh boy. Yeah, time to spam cure. That's part of the reason why I was thinking specifically White Mage, because any other healer you would have something you could do. Remember Ribbit. And be ready, she might... Here it comes. Da-da-da-da-da-da. Don't worry about it, Derby. I'm pretty sure I did that like half a dozen times in a farm group I was in like ages back. Like I was like one of the blue mages, and every time I would be like, oh right, the rivet thing, and the group was sitting there like, buddy, this is like pull 10. What are you doing? Welcome back, Traverse. I hope you had a good meeting. Yeah, Sunken Temple of Khan is interesting in roulette. Half the meeting could have been in an email. Ah, yes. The classic. They want to make sure you heard it. So meeting it is. Need more damage buff to complete it quickly? Who knows? If everyone like gets like their rotation just right and no one gets riveted, that's probably like as hard as we can go. Traverse, you know people can't read. Ah, yeah, that was what we were talking about earlier with Party Finder and reading like the message in the Party Finder thing. People can't read those either for some reason. Isn't that strange? When there's something strange in your Party Finder group, who you gonna call? I don't know, I'm asking. Two minutes 15. Feels like that's where we're peaking at. Maybe we can do it in 2:10 if everyone gets it just right. Yeah, BSR jumps out. Do we have anyone else that wants to join in this this ridiculous spam? A new challenger. We have multiple new challengers, so if there's anyone who's sitting here being like, wow, this is getting a little dull, you don't have to stay for my sake. Oh. Bard is probably better than Dancer with 60 DPS. I've been barding in P12S with Cap Striker, insane range DPS. Well, I think part of it boils down to whether the individual both has Bard leveled and also whether they can play it well. Because I feel like the difficulty difference between Dancer and Bard is pretty massive. Like, that's also part of the thing with Blue Mage. The only reason why Blue Mage is always this good is because Blue Mage, played decently, is stronger than a regular job. Like, that's what makes it so insane, is that it's so good that you don't even have to be that good at it, and you'll still beat a regular job. Is 8 Blue Mages just the fastest farm? Maybe? I think there is a possibility that a warrior tanking and maybe a real healer healing might, and then just 6 blue mages going crazy might be the best option. And of course, if the fight doesn't call for that much healing, you might not even need the healer, and depending on like the fight, maybe a blue mage would be better than a warrior. But blue mages will certainly be strong. It's just that blue mages, when it comes to tanking and healing, get really weird. In my opinion, blue mage tanks is more like they put on like a bronze cap or something, and like a tag that says "Hi, I'm a tank," and that's kind of what they did to become a tank. Like they don't quite have the defensive like capacity of a real tank. They're almost there, but they're lacking in a lot of things, which means that often their only trump card is that they can go, "Ha! Diamond back! Now I take 90% less damage and I can't do anything." And then there's also the part where they can heal really well as a tank. And as a healer, you're also in a similar situation. Blue mages don't really have any OGCD healing. So if you're annoyed those white mages are spamming Cure 2, let me introduce you to Blue Mage, who has Medica 1, Cure 1.5, and Medica 2 on a 2-minute cooldown. And then they also have Wide Wind, which is insane. Trust me, I'm a tank. Here's my permit. And race on a 5-minute cooldown. Yeah, exactly. So, like, the problem is for blue mages that if you went only blue mages, a lot of the time, at least the way I feel it, is that blue mage tank feels like a downgrade in most situations as opposed to a proper tank. And a blue mage healer feels more like a DPS that just went, no, don't worry about it. I brought the healer lost actions. It's fine. Remember Ribbit? And no one got... Aww. On my screen you didn't get hit. That if that's any consolation, Rust. It also has... Well, they don't have Sucker, they have Gobskin, which doesn't heal. So it's not Sucker. But kind of. It's kind of, but not really. Like, they basically have not really Medica 1, they have not really Cure 2, and they have not really Medica... Like, Medica 2. And then they also, of course, also have not really Soccer. Closer to Soccer? We have White Mage at home. Yeah, exactly. We have Raze on a 5-minute cooldown, but we have it. Oh, yeah, we absolutely have Medica too. On a 2-minute cooldown, but still. We have Taunt. Ours don't even have a cooldown. What do you mean Taunt generates a huge amount of enmity now? What? Still better than WoW reses. Ah, yeah, the charge system. Could Blue Mage with Auto Life? Could you imagine if Blue Mage had Auto Life? How insane that would be. Most fun damage rotation of any healer, though. That's true. They have something. And yeah, I do remember that. When I was, so a while back, quite a while back, I did make like a starter and advanced guide for blue mages. That was before they got to level 80. And the one of the things that I learned in my research for said guide was specifically that, you know, there's many builds. These days you have, like, remember Ribbit, everyone? Remember Ribbit. Be careful. Look for where she's looking. Time to dodge. Got one. These days, you have, you know, like, the one that does Mortal Flame and the one that does Breath of Magic, and then you have the rest of the DPS. And for healers, you usually have, like, one main healer, and then, like, you know how we talk about having a main tank and an off tank? In terms of blue mages, you might actually have a main healer and an off healer, where the main healer is the one, you know, with all the healing spells necessary. They're the one that chooses exuviation if you need it, and things like that. Where the off healer is likely to bring Moonflute, because they don't need to heal most of the time. So, like, as long as they're able to heal at the time where it's needed, they can absolutely dip in and do that 50% extra damage with Moonflute for the burst with everyone else. They're basically the one that met up for work and just put, like, on a tag saying, I'm a healer. And in terms of, like, tanks, in terms of tank blue mages, like, why would you bring two actual tank blue mages if, like, the off tank only has, like, chip in for a moment? You can just have someone bring Mighty Guard or something, if it's really that important. Which is quite interesting, because it means that blue mages can kind of just, you know, switch mode as needed. If exuviation is needed, we usually bring it on everyone. Oh, fair enough. We did it in 2 minutes and 10 seconds. Nice. Yeah, I could see that. It depends on whether you can actually stack up for exuviation, I suppose. Like, if there's not a if there isn't a good opportunity to actually stack up for it, then it's completely impossible to actually make that magic happen, and then everyone has to bring it. Do we have any other ideas for what would be good to farm for this? Remember the ribbit, remember the ribbit. Look for where the boss is facing, and then dodge the ribbit. And punk. What? Were you? The timing of Derby just, like, in-game going, I tried. I was certain you were out of it. And I just turned the camera and there you are. As a frog. But yeah, part of the reason why blue mage builds are like that, where you would have, quote-unquote, an off healer and things like that, is because there are so many good options for blue mages these days. Or rather, I think the way that I put it in that blue mage, in those blue mage guides, I think was more that there are so many blue mage actions that are non-negotiable. Like, of course you're choosing J-Kick. Of course you're bringing, like, being mortal. Like, obviously you're bringing those. And they're way too much damage to not bring them. But it also means that out of those 24 spell slots you have, you're using, like, 16 of them on mandatory stuff, if not 20 of them. So you have, like, and, like, if we start to include role-specific stuff, right? So really quickly, you reach a point where it's, like, It's not about, do you want this? It's very much about, do you need this? Because it doesn't matter whether you want it. If you don't need it, then you don't have space for it. 211. 210 to 11. Hey Nina, hope you're doing well. What can you sacrifice for this? And when you have those situations where you're not choosing between like what you want, but specifically choosing what you have to, then it stops being about what you want and just becomes about what you need. Also, look! We have a little. We have the Lalafels, the Lalafell corner. Dun 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 dun. They're swaying in the wind. A12 requires you to bring diamond back on everyone. What are you kicking out? Yeah, exactly. Do we have a replacement player 8? Well, there's a bunch of people that are done. In that case, this is probably a good time to look for what else we could farm. But with that said, yeah, I think we can vouch for this one. Without like with a blue like with one blue mage, one tank and one healer, and like just full DPS, we could do like there's a gate in 3 minutes. Fair enough, go for it. I'll stay here. I'll do my gate Mogtome farming off stream, I think. But I think we can vouch for this one, even if it takes 3 minutes. This is still like above average. Like that's actually still pretty good. I get what you mean, Blitz. The thing is, a blue mage isn't actually balanced at all. Like, I'm reasonably confident saying that they're not balancing, blue mage around the meta because they're not, they're kind of just giving blue mages some crazy stuff they can do. And for the most part, just going, do stuff with it. And just giving some challenges for the players. So blue mage is just, yeah, exactly, that's why it's a limited job. Because it's meant to be broken. And the thing is, when people say A12 requires you to bring diamond back, it's not meant as, if you don't bring it, we'll kick you. It's, if you don't bring it, you'll die. Like, actually you'll die. Because A12 requires LB3 from a tank, and you don't have that if you're all blue mages. And the only way to survive it without tank LB3 is if you use diamond back. Like, when people say, you need this, they mean, you need this. Just makes a great, it just makes a great exaggerated illustration. Hundreds of spells, actually only 20 spells. And that's a good point. That is actually a very good point. A huge amount of blue mage spells feel like they're pack filler, if that makes sense. Like, you know how, like, if, like, in a trading card game, you buy a booster pack, you get 10 cards. Like Magic or something. Ah, there's a land. Guess you can always use a land. There's, like, a good card. You go, oh, I might use this for a deck. And then there's just, like, chumps for the rest, maybe. Like, I'll never use this. I'll never use this. This is just a dude. Like a 2/2 dude. I have those. Or, like, if you're playing, like, a gacha game, I don't know, Genshin Impact, you buy, like, a 10-pack, you get 10 whatever weapons that you already have. That's pack filler. And if we just look at the Blue Mage arsenal, some of the pack filler is like, oh, that spell is mandatory for this particular masked carnival encounter. Because of so-and-so attribute of it. But the moment we step away from the Blue Mage exclusive stuff where they basically made content for Blue Mage, if we step away from that, then it's like, when there's not a lot of situations where this is actually a spell you'll choose. There's not a lot of situations where this is a spell you'll choose. This, no, probably not. This is, it's a spell, but you have better Doom spells, I think. I guess the fact it has no cooldown makes it stand out, but this is probably better. Like, for every good spell you have, and when I say a good spell, I mean spell because abilities are a completely different story for Blue Mages. Every time you have a good spell, it probably just invalidates like 5 other spells because it's the best version of that spell. Why would you choose... What would you choose over Ram's Voice? The only reason you choose something with a similar damage profile as Ram's Voice is so you can spam it when Deep Freeze is active, to like maintain Deep Freeze for longer by not overriding it early. Number 38 is useful until you get a different spell because it's a half cast, and that is true. The reason why I said when would you choose this is mainly because you'd probably choose this. And the fact that Fire Angon comes from Wanderer's Palace Heart and Sonic Boom comes from a random Ansu in the Sea of Clouds means that there's a real possibility you have Sonic Boom first. So why would you use Fire Angon? Maybe for the AoE component. That might be the case, but that's a really, really specific situation. And that also means, like, if we just look in the most recent batch of spells is 105 to 124. Being mortal is better than Apocalypsis in most situations, because in most situations, you can't channel Apocalypsis for 10 seconds. It requires too much upkeep, you could say. Sea Shanty is an ability, and because it's an ability, like, the key thing is, when you use a GCD, so a spell or weapon skill, you're choosing to use that weapon skill or spell instead of a different one. When you're using an ability, you're using that in addition to a spell. So you're not choosing one over the other. And because of the way that Blue Mages have to choose their options, they only get 24 at most out of 124. You don't need 24 GCDs. You can't use all of them at once anyway, but you can use 24 OGCDs all at once, hypothetically. And things like buffs, you can use an infinite amount of those, technically. And that's kind of the problem that's happening with Blue Mage, and I think I've actually talked about this before, that the thing that I find a little weird with Blue Mage is that as more and more and more abilities and spells have been added to Blue Mage, what's happened is that we've like gradually shoved more. And by the way, just looking at this build, some of you might be sitting there thinking I'm absolutely insane. And this is an idiot build, and you're right. This build was put together for something really specific. And it wasn't like important to be optimized at all. I was tanking with it, as you can see. But what happens is that if we keep going like this, and you only get 24 of them, right? If you only get 24 slots, and you're staying at 24 slots, like forever, when there's 240 spells to choose from, hypothetically, maybe one day, maybe there are 24 OGCDs that are all good. So you actually have to go, well, I could just fill out my entire Blue Mage with OGCD attacks. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to choose the filler GCD that I need, these other abilities like Ethereal Mimicry that I need, and then once I've gotten all the things that I need to have to do this, I just fill with all the good OGCDs, starting from the best ones and going down. That makes it a little bit more interesting, but because we are in a spot right now where we're in sort of like the opposite end, because of how Blue Mage works, the way that it works right now is that you choose like the buffs that you need, Ethereal Mimicry, and then you like fill, it feels like that at least, right? You just fill with all the good OGCDs, and once you've grabbed all the good OGCDs, you go, okay, how much space do I have left? I think it'll get a lot more interesting the moment that we have too many good options that are basically mandatory, because then you can't grab all of them anymore. I'm imagining the situation where Blue Mage only has one GCD. It's very possible. Caetsu says, Saintly Beam might be my favorite. Guessing if something is undead or not is pretty funny. Yeah, true. Could you imagine if Blue Mage could participate in Boja? You just go into the loop room, Regine, and you get to that undead boss, someone casts Banish, and then you just see all the Blue Mages go, my time has come. Oh. Apocalypse is really cool. Sorry, being mortal. That is true. There is a reason why, and this is something that I do want to highlight for a moment here. When I say Apocalypse is worse than being mortal, because being mortal is basically just better, because it's easier to use, is that in the first week of these spells being unlocked, people basically started testing. People immediately figured out, like, well, if you just add being mortal and sea shanty and all this to your rotation, you need this guy with being mortal, this guy with mortal flame, I should say, mortal cringe even, and this guy with breath of magic, and then everyone else is just like mega burst with being mortal and all that. Then this is the optimal thing, and then people also sat down and figured out, well, Apocalypse does do more damage than being mortal. That is true. It is stronger, and if you use Apocalypse right as Moonflute ends, Apocalypse snapshots that 50% damage boost. So it's really strong. It's not 140 potency, it's more like 210, right? Per tick, and it takes 10 times, so it's 2,100 potency. It's really, really strong. The problem is, most bosses will not let you stand still for 10 seconds every 2 minutes. And people discovered, as far as I remember, this might have changed since, because I haven't like been paying close attention to like the meta of Blue Mages, but people discovered that there was a build that did like make use of Apocalypse that did do more DPS than like the meta build that used being mortal. The problem was it did more damage on a striking dummy. And the way that it worked was that you also used Phantom Flurry, and the key here is that both Phantom Flurry and Apocalypse are abilities that you typically end your Moonflute on, because while Moonflute ending means that you can't do anything, it doesn't stop a channel that you're already doing. So if you just start Phantom Flurry, you can just, like, if you just move your hands off the keyboard or drop your controller and don't click anything, you'll just continue kicking for the full, like, 5 seconds, and that's pretty good. Like, that's pretty good. It's actually, like, if you like start Phantom Flurry with 1 second left on Moonflute, it is actually better to just let it keep ticking than to, like, click the button. Because if you click the button in time, that's 900 potency if we, like, count for Moonflute being added. But if you just let it tick out, it ticks 4 more times, and each of those would be 300 because of the Moonflute boost. And that would be 1,200. So, like, it's better to just let it tick. And because Phantom Flurry and Apocalypse are both like finishers, like enders of your Moonflute burst, it means that you're like the optimal way to make use of Apocalypse is that you use Phantom Flurry to finish one Moonflute, and the other Moonflute, which you do 1 minute later, you finish with Apocalypsis, which also means that the person who would be using Apocalypsis would be very good at maintaining Breath of Magic, because they're going to use Moonfruit every minute anyway. But the problem, as I said, is the boss isn't going to let you do that. They're just not going to let you do that. Matthew says it's like 1 free slot on DPS now. Yeah, exactly. Also, hey Perrin, hope you're doing well. The don't... let's see... They might be able to now. Don't Trail benchmark showed that warrior intercepting an attack meant for the Viper. Yeah, kind of. Parent says, from the internal files, it looks like that skill might just be a direct upgrade to Vengeance, but we'll likely find out in 2 days. Yeah, exactly. That was also what I said. When we had seen the benchmark, I actually, like, on the community Discord, in the spoiler room, it's a while back, you'd have to scroll if you want to look for it, but I wrote, like, a whole blurb of what I saw and my guesses, and what I said specifically about the warrior action that they showed is that it looked like the warrior intercepted the attack of the enemy with this action, but it has the same body animation as Vengeance and then like a visual upgrade to it. But it's possible that this Vengeance actually comes with the ability to intercept. It's possible. It's also possible that what actually happened is that the warrior used some different action that intercepts an attack, and then they clicked Super Vengeance or whatever it's called. But it's also possible, as Matthew highlights here, that it's movie magic, and that's also what I said. They might just be setting up a cool moment. Like, let's not forget that what we're seeing there looked like a mishmash of players. I don't think there were 8 players on that, like, hilltop. Maybe there was. And the Viper just randomly used LB3. Right? That's not how that works. You explicitly need 8 players. So, like, I imagine that it might just be movie magic. But it would be cool if tanks got, like, some sort of ability to intercept damage for other players. I mean, Endwalker benchmark showed Passage of Arms doing something that it absolutely can't. That's a pretty good, like, nail in the coffin for that one. And I'm also very curious about the Thursday's live letter. I will say, I can't remember exactly how detailed those are. But, like, we're not, as far as I remember, we're not getting, like, tooltips of how everything works. But we might see, like, a demonstration of what the actions look like. You might have seen, like, sometimes some channels have used, like a little clip of a character just beating away at a striking dummy or a random mob that has a surprising amount of HP out in the middle of nowhere with no UI present. And often those clips are like preempted with like a very flashy animation of like, oh, this is the Gunbreaker, with like the Gunbreaker guy on the picture and like a coin that looks like the Gunbreaker icon flying in, and then it like flips to Gunbreaker just bashing away at a striking dummy. That's the job action trailers. That's what you're getting. So we might not know how these things work. However, what we would see is if Super Vengeance actually involves intercepting an attack, they would probably show Warrior with some other guy on the field, and they would use Super Vengeance to jump in front of the other guy to show that. Probably. if it can do that, or if it's supposed to be used for that, they might do that. But we don't know. As far as I know, when I learned how a lot of the jobs actually worked was when there was, like, I think there was a leak of tooltips. All the tank tooltips and all the healer tooltips suddenly got leaked, like, a couple weeks before Endwalker. That is the reason why I know that Sage's Nightmare, big laser beam, was supposed to have the 10% damage reduction that ended up on Holos. They changed their mind and moved it. Here's Dancer just a Mikota AFK in Limsa. And that is true. I am not saying the action trailers are bad. Not in any way. I'm just saying that the players that started on Final Fantasy XIV in Endwalker and have not had this before might be getting their hopes up much higher than what those of us that have been through this before might know to expect. That's all I'm saying, is that it's going to be great, it's going to be interesting, but it's not like they're going to go, here are all the tooltips. Knock yourselves out. That's not what's going to happen on Thursday. Jake says, do you think Dragoon will change a lot? Probably, but we have no idea to what extent. What we do know is that Monk got changed significantly during Shadowbringers, but the Masterful Blitz part of their changes came with Endwalker. And Summoner's rework was too big for Shadowbringers. Just like, as in for a patch in Shadowbringers. Just like how Dragoon and Astrologian's reworks are too big for a major patch in Endwalker. So it could be this big. Like, it could be as drastic of a rework as a Summoner. If Paladin received minor changes, Dragoon will be ranged. I don't know, let me put it like this. Maybe I should outline what kind of changes Monk got as a major patch change in Shadowbringers. During Shadowbringers, Monk had a job gauge called Greased Lightning. Every time you used Snap Punch, Demolish, or Rock Breaker, you got 1 stack of Greased Lightning, which did this per stack up to 3. And it also increased the damage you did by 10% per stack. So 10, 20, 30%. They also had these passives, these buffs they could activate that were just like permanent buff. They could only have 1 active at a time, called Fist of Stone, I think. Fist of Earth, Fist of Wind, and Fist of Fire. Fist of Fire increased your damage by 10%, I believe, or was it 15? Fist of Wind just increased your movement speed by 10%. And Fists of Earth reduced damage taken by 10%. So Lamau memes, Monk tanks, all that. But in Shadowbringers, this trait actually made it so that you could have a 4th stack of Greased Lightning if you were in Fists of Wind specifically, which was objectively better to do than being in Fists of Fire. Then, in some major patch, they decided that this Greased Lightning was too janky. That's also, by the way, Anatman used to pause and max out the duration on Greased Lightning and pause it, just like it does with this Disciplined Fist. Because that was a problem. That's why Anatman is kind of bleh now. I'm pretty sure Anatman also gave you a stack of Greased Lightning per tick. So, like, it was like a little bit like Samurai's Meditate. Or Meditation. Meditate? Meditate. But in a patch in Shadowbringers, they just decided to like grab all that and just throw it out the window. And made it like this. The only difference being that back then, Monk had like 3 or 4 OGCD attacks they just used on cooldown. Like Elixir Field was just an OGCD. Tornado Kick used to be something that spent your Greased Lightning and had like a 10-second cooldown. They just made that into a 40-second cooldown OGSD. You just click on cooldown. Steel Peak was an OGSD. Howling Fist was an OGSD at some point. And they just, like, an OGCD that just didn't cost anything. And then in Endwalker, they finished the rework because apparently the Masterful Blitz portion was too big for a major patch. So it is possible. I think they talked about this when they wanted to do that in Endwalker, but it is possible. It's possible that Paladin might receive additional changes when Dawntrail comes out. Leah says, I'm sorry, spending Greased Lightning? Yes. Before the rework, Tornado Kick was a pretty big hit. Just a big wham! That just set you back to 0 Greased Lightning. Remember, you got 1 Greased Lightning whenever you did one of these attacks. And yeah, exactly, because of that, the way you typically used it was like, the boss is leaving, 6-sided star Tornado Kick, or Tornado Kick 6-sided star, whatever. Like, you basically just went wham, 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 spent what you had left before the cutscene starts, and your Greased Lightning, which had a 15 or 16 second duration, ran out. You know, a little bit like Astral Fire or Umbral Ice. The way that made sense in any way was that with no Masterful Blitz. With no Masterful Blitz, right? What are you using Perfect Balance for? You were basically using Perfect Balance to go Dragon Kick, Boot Shine, Dragon Kick, Boot Shine, Dragon Kick, Boot Shine. But if you had 0 Greased Lightning, you could also, you know, use Snap Punch 3 times, and bam, you have Greased Lightning 3. So like, there was something you could do there. I'm pretty sure you could also, because back then, I think it was a longer cooldown, it just gave you 6 stacks instead of 3 per charge. It was just once and 3 and 6 stacks. So you could, you know, go Snap Punch 3 times, and then Tornado Kick, and then Snap Punch 3 more times. You could do that. I'm not saying necessarily that you would. I believe using Tornado Kick, big underline, using Tornado Kick was an advanced playstyle. Like, if you think Transpose lines is a little weird because you're using Transpose, monks had to choose to use Tornado Kick at all because it was too confusing to use. Yeah, that was a rework. They removed all that just out the window during Shadowbringers. So but the thing that they did in Endwalker to monks was that they added Masterful Blitz. And Masterful Blitz came with new animations and like new interactions. So that's the kind of stuff that comes with like, oh, that's too big for a major patch. That one has to go in the expansion. So we don't know what will happen to Dragoon or Astrologian, but we know it'll probably be big. And yeah, hey, look at the Magi. Ultimog is beat Palace of the Dead floor 100. Also, hey, Bridgeface, hope you're doing well. And Cornelia. Dragon. Now here we are with Dragon Kick filler rotation. Yeah. I think they've made it so that, like, yeah, Dragon Kick filler rotation is still kind of fine. Like, it's not bad at all. And it can, like, if you just use Dragon Kick filler properly, like, you still burst correctly and all that, you can beat a lot of players. But it's not optimal. Like, that's the key here, is it's not optimal. That's why I specified the filler part. Oh yeah, I know, Gireen. I'm just saying that specifically, even with the filler part, doing a quote-unquote proper filler is still better. Like, not a, like, it's surprisingly small difference, but it is significant. Then does I look like evil Kai? Wait, where are you? Is that you? Oh yeah. But yeah, for anyone who like tuned into the stream after the little farm we had before, we spent a lot of the stream talking about decent farming strategies. I'll go over this again. The main focal point of this stream being Moogle Treasure Trove, of course. If you just want like a decent amount of Mogtomes and you're not in a hurry, my recommendation is park your character in the gold saucer and like set a stopwatch. Whenever the hour hits like 20 minutes past, 40 minutes past, or on the hour, a gate will appear. Participate in it. You don't have to do well. It'll take less than 5 minutes and you will get 1 to 10 Mogtomes. And you'll just passively accumulate. You just have to like check in every 20 minutes and play a little bit. That's it. And like I've accumulated over 100 Mogtomes easily in an an afternoon where I was like doing whatever anyway. If you are a little bit on the like I want to get Mogtomes right now, one thing would be to do these, although the Ultimog seems to... This will take a while. This might actually not be worth your time if you're, like, trying to be efficient. 50 for 100 floors in Palace of the Dead? That's going to take over 2 hours. It's not worth it. How come it's not worth it? Generally, typically, when we talk an efficient farming method of Mogtomes, half a tome per minute is a pretty good standard. If you're doing something that takes more than 2 minutes per Mogtome, then there's probably a better strategy. And when I say probably, we tested definitely with 1 tank, 1 healer, and 6 DPS, one of which was a blue mage, but like not played optimally necessarily, the blue mage's words, we could beat Deltascape V3.1 in 2.5 minutes. 2.5 minutes. And it gives 2. So that's actually, it's not 1 tome per minute, it's not half a tome per minute, somewhere in between, and it's really good. It's still good if it's 3 minutes. It's still decent if it's 3.5 minutes. It's not bad if it takes you 4 minutes. If you go over that, it starts to get a little bit... Maybe you can find a better strategy, but this is a good option. This is a good option. And if you're not actively interested in doing Palace of the Dead, then this is probably a more time-efficient option. But if you ever were interested in doing Palace of the Dead, this is a good opportunity to get into it, because you just get this on top. Like, any rewards you would get from doing Palace of the Dead anyway, you get those, and then just also 50 tomes. Like, that's just free extra. Traverse says, do you think you'll do the Ultimog challenge this time? If so, would that be on a stream or off stream? I might do it. I think... one of my first streams on the channel was a solo attempt of Palace of the Dead, where I wiped on like floor 170 something or 180 something. I think it was 170 something. I've never beaten Palace of the Dead, like as in the full 200 floors, but I have soloed past 170 floors. And I did it on stream. And it was pretty funny. If I remember correctly, I had like that session where we wiped. I had not stepped in a single trap for like over 20 floors, and I was like, I pointed it out and immediately stepped in a luring trap that required me to spend some pomanders. And then I stepped in another luring trap, which required me to spend some pomanders. And then, shortly after, I was like I was actually suddenly spent really quickly and said, if I step in another trap, like a luring trap, I'm done. And then I stepped in a luring trap. I just looked at it and was like, well, I think I had also just seen that there was this thing I called a party house or something like that in the room with the exit. And when I say a party house, if you've ever done Palace of the Dead, you probably know what I mean when I say you walk up to the room and there's like 15 mobs in there. And you're like, I can't defeat all that. And I saw that. I was like, I don't have the pomanders to do this. Stepped in the luring trap and was like, well... yeah, exactly, the Pokemon Dungeon Trap room. It's basically a monster house, yeah. Pretty much. Yeah, I know Sid wants to do it. The problem is typically not with the problem I've discovered with going into Palace of the Dead is that you can often, like, figure out you want to do it. You can find, like, a friend who wants to do it. 3 friends that wants to do it. And you can make your schedules match. A 24-hour stream challenge. I think if we were to do that, it would take multiple streams. You know, the sad part about that, Traverse, is if it was a Necromancer stream, it would mean that Seb doesn't get to join. You have to beat it alone for that one. And I'll put it like this. I'll put it like this. If Palace of the Dead was 100% skill-based, and it didn't kick you back to floor 1 if you wiped, I would have done it. Like, I would have done it by now. I think that kind of concept is interesting. The problem is that it's too much of a run back. And the specific thing that makes it the most annoying as a streaming thing is... yeah, exactly, it's like a roguelike, but it's worse. In roguelikes, you're still, like, in a challenging situation for most of the run, right? Like, floor 1 should be challenging. But once you've done a run or two, like, tried a bit and gotten further, it turns out that Palace of the Dead, in my opinion, is like, the mobs can kill you if you don't pay attention on any floor. Like, I think I wiped once in a duo run with a friend on, I think, like, floor 12 because a slime exploded. So anything can kill you if you let it. Which means you can never relax all the way up. But from floor 1 to, like, 130 or 140... isn't actually that bad. Like, I'm pretty sure, like, if you know what you're doing, floor 1 to 130 or so, you can beat without getting lucky. Like, of course, if you're really unlucky, that's a different story, but I'm pretty sure you can get, like, to 130 or 140 without outright getting lucky. Like, that part, you can just, like, skill issue your way through. And of those 140 floors, like, the first 100 are not that scary. If you wipe on floor 99, you can start 99. You can start on floor 90 again. Yes, you can. That's an important point. If you just want to beat this, you can wipe as many times as you like. The way that Palace of the Dead works is that you can do floor 1 to 100. I believe you can even go from 51 to 100. And you can wipe as many times as you like. You can even do it with random groups. It's just queue in and just like climb your way slowly. But if you wipe, or if you're going with not a pre-made party, or you started at floor 51, any one of those is true, then when you reach floor 100 and beat it, they will not let you progress past that. So if you're doing Palace of the Dead and you're just trying to do Timog, then you can wipe as many times as you want, and it's no problem. But if you want to go beyond floor 100, then you have to do it without wiping. And you have to do it from floor 1. And you have to do the pre-made. As in, if you want to, get to floor 200, you have to bring the same people every time. 1 to 170 can be done consistently. Even better. I would say that like around 140, 150 or so, it starts to get really challenging and interesting, and like it's a lot more likely you can wipe out. But it's the problem is specifically that there is such a long run back. I feel like Eureka Authors and Heaven on High kind of fixed this a little bit, because Heaven on High, I feel like it starts getting challenging, like almost at floor 31, maybe at 51. So like you don't have nearly as much of a run back. And Eureka Authors, I mean, I have a video, like I have streamed doing like a 4-man pre-made of progressing Eureka Authors, and we had a really interesting run where I ended up soloing the boss on floor 40, which I believe is Twintania? Basically Twintania, with some modifications maybe. Twister's funny, by the way. So like you run into challenges really early. We even wiped out like on floor 11 there because we underestimated something. So it is like it's better in that way. Palace of the Dead feels like it's too long. Like that's the problem I have with running Palace of the Dead to floor 200. It's too long. If you could just start on floor 101. If you could start, like, basically, if you could just start on floor 101 at level 60 with, like, I'm willing to negotiate on this one, but if you just had, like, full pomanders across the board, because you could have collected that, you start at level 60 and floor 101. If you could just do that, then I think I might actually, like, I would have done Palace of the Dead, like, somewhat regularly just for fun. The problem is that those 100 floors, it's like if your mom went like brought in like awesome pancakes and you're like, oh man, and then she's like, eat your greens first, and then she just like brings out like a bucket of like broccoli or something. I like broccoli, by the way, but like just brings out like a giant salad and goes, eat this first. And yeah, of course, like, if you could start on floor 151, that would have been even better. But I'm just saying, I think you could easily cut Palace of the Dead in half. Yeah, it's too deep. But yeah, if it... Just to reiterate, now that we've talked about the danger and fear of Palace of the Dead. If you just want this, if this is what you want, you can wipe as many times as it takes. If you wipe with a pre-made starting on floor 1, you just can't go beyond. But if you're planning that you might wipe, and you can start on floor 51, you can just do that. And just go 51 to 100 with a pre-made. But if I were to stream this, I would probably start on floor 1. Regardless of whether I'm going solo with friends. But I don't know if I will. Depends on like how schedule pans out. But I will say, Traverse, I will say that I saw this and immediately thought, huh, should I plan streams for this? Should I bring Sip? Who else should I bring? Like, I immediately thought, maybe we should do something with that. I know a lot of players, like I can't like name them, but I know a lot of players are basically barred from Palace of the Dead because they can't start on floor 51 without reaching floor 51. And if you queue for Palace of the Dead floor 1 on a normal day, then it's probably not popping very often. Like from floor 1? How long do you think you'll have to wait for floor 41? Unless you catch the people you just went with. Now, there's probably a better chance because a lot of people go, oh, this is a great opportunity to do this. So, like, maybe we'd, like, bring a few people that haven't done it and then just aim for floor 100. Maybe we'll do something else. Jake says, I waited for 25 minutes on floor 1, like 4 weeks ago. Exactly. And if you had gotten, if you then queued for floor 11 to 20, once you'd done it, you'd probably had gotten the exact same group, like the same 3 players, or a longer queue. But yeah, I can say, if you're curious how a Palace of the Dead stream might have, like a solo stream of Palace of the Dead might have looked like on this channel. If you go to the live section of the channel and sort by oldest, I believe I did one as the second stream on the channel, and then I continued it as as another stream after that. Hey Aaron, yes, it is up. And the Timog is Deep Dungeons. But yeah, the problem is specifically with how you get caught a little bit in it, because if you already had done some Palace of the Dead, you could just solo to floor 50. But if you haven't, then that's a pretty problematic proposition. And just to reiterate one more time, this, if you wanted to do this anyway, if you have never done floor 100 Palace of the Dead, or you were doing a solo run anyway or something, or you wanted to have a reason to do Palace of the Dead, this is fine. But if you're doing this for efficiency, then this is possibly the worst 50 tomestones you can get. This is not going to take 2 hours. It's going to take way longer than 2 hours. And you have so many... Like, I'm actually reasonably confident that something like spamming Praetorium might actually be better. Like, time-wise. Hey Wuzio, hope you're doing well. But I am. We're just talking about strategies. We actually tried a strategy. I'll probably reiterate it one more time before we end on the stream. Zaf says it took me 25 minutes. You know, Zaf, years ago, I had a project at the gymnasium I went to. And there was this like 1 week of like a personal project that you had to hand in. You had to like plan it with your teachers and stuff. It's like that they were in on what you were doing. And it had to be like relevant for 2 subjects that you had. And the subject that I chose was approximations, and it combined math and programming. And on the day where we were going to get assigned our tasks in relation to these project ideas, which of course those tasks were designed by the teachers involved, the day those tasks were going to be given, we had like a hand-in of like a programming project. And because I had already finished, I could just work on whatever. And I had a little talk with my programming professor where he was like, yeah, I mean, you could probably do like... You could probably, like, it wouldn't be a bad idea to start with, like, just making, like, a simple, like, code a simple program that could perform the functions in relation to those approximation methods that you've studied in relation to this project. And I then had my programming teacher, who was a different one, because it was actually the IT teacher, like, information technology teacher, who was the supervisor for this project. But I could ask my programming teacher to help me with making these functions, like these codes. So when I got the assignment handed to me, one of the tasks was like, make a simple program that can perform this simplification, like this approximation method, make a simple program that can do this approximation method, make a simple program that can perform this approximation method, like 4 of them. And I started day 1 like, yeah, I have already done that. That was you today with the Ultimog challenge. Right, so beat floor 100 in Palace of the Dead. Alright, I have 91 here, ready to go. You could not have prepared yourself better for this. Unless you had like a 4-man pre-made. Prepared in the same way, ready to go. Aaron says, is there a blue mage farming method this round? I mean, yes, there are ways to do it. So the way we test it, and you can actually see us do it, if you rewind the stream and all that, but basically, O3N, which is this one, you can beat in 2 minutes and 10 seconds with 1 tank, 1 healer, and 6 DPS. 2 of which are blue mages, with question mark skill levels. 2 minutes and 10 seconds. If you had 6 blue mages, you could probably get it below 2 minutes, which would mean you would be making more than 1 tome per minute, which is really good. Like, that's actually, that's amazing. Like, let me put it like this. Back in the day, speedrunning Aurum Vale with blue mages usually made it so that you could get like around nearly 1 tome per minute. So if you can do anything that gives you 1 tome per minute or more, that's good. That's really good. And that's also the reason why I said this is going to take over 2 hours. So this is not a good method to get Mogtomes unless you were going to do it anyway. Because what it's competing with is this, and you would probably be able to beat this in 3 minutes or below 3 minutes with no blue mages. So yeah, it's all fun and games until we need to code in a 3rd integral for a stats program. Yeah. It says, people on Reddit were trying to convince me that that a random group can finish it in 1 hour, but I kind of doubt it. Like, floor 51 to 100? Is that what you mean, Edored? Floor 51 to 100? A random group? Probably not. Because you would probably have queue times. And you would need, 4 people. But if you just, like, went there, grabbed 3 people and did, like, a pre-made from floor 51 to 100, if everyone knows what they're doing, then you can actually run extremely fast. I don't know about 1 minute per floor. Like that I agree on that one. That sounds questionable. But I could imagine that we might be making it out to be more than it is. Like, maybe you can do it in 2 hours? Something that I do think is worthwhile to keep in mind when comparing it to the last season's ocean fishing is that with ocean fishing, if you don't get the 8,000 points, you just had to go again next time it pops, because ocean fishing happens at a specific time. So, like, you could be stuck with that for a long time. But the deep dungeon, you go when you want. And if you progress to a new, like, if you could go solo from the beginning. And if you progress to floor 10, you've progressed. And, you keep that. I don't know if you keep any upgrades you get if you wipe. I don't think you do. So, like, that would be harder. But the idea is that you can do this. And you can progress. And it's not that much about random chance. It's more about doing it. Hamza's soloing Hellskier as Blue Mage to get Phantom Flurry is not happening, at least for me. Yeah, that sounds pretty hard. You keep Pomanders. Do you... Yeah, the question is then, do you... If you wipe, do you keep the Pomanders you found in those 10 floors? Like, I mean, if... Let's say you beat floor 10. You zone in on floor 11. You pick up, like, some silver chests that give you armor and weapon upgrades. You find some Pomanders. And then you wipe on floor 15. Do you keep anything you found? Or do you just get rewinded back to what you had when you finished floor 10? Research to what you had at the checkpoint. Yeah, that was what I was worried about. That will make it a lot harder, because that does mean that you might be in a situation where you would have to, like, hypothetically, and I imagine for most people this isn't going to be a thing, because it would just be easier to queue. But if you really don't want to deal with strangers, you could probably, like, it would be hard, but you could probably make your way to floor 10 alone. And then you could just, rewind and get to floor 10 again and again and again until you've gotten, like, enough upgrades that it starts to get easier. And then, push further and further. You could also, just go as far as you can, and then when you wipe, you wipe. But that might lead to a lot of wasted time. But it can be done. It can be done. But yeah, my recommendations is, as always, do these. Do these. They are almost always worth the time investment. This one, don't bother unless you wanted to do it anyway. For grinding, this one. For fast farming, try and get a pre-made, so you can get like 6 DPS, a tank, and a healer. If you have blue mages, even better. For more casual farming, this one is really good. Just park yourself in the gold saucer and set a timer every 20 minutes. When the gate pops, do it. And then just do whatever. For the super casual grind, you could do this. Like, just do stuff in the cutscenes. If you're doing stuff in the cutscenes so you're not wasting time, then this is... Like, how much time do you actually spend playing the game in Praetorium? Does anyone know? How long are the cutscenes? Is it like 20 minutes of cutscenes? I'm pretty sure I've beaten Praetorium in like 26 minutes. 10 minutes of gameplay. Yeah, then like if you don't sit through the cutscenes, like if you actually do stuff in the cutscenes, then this is actually a super efficient way to grind. Those are my suggestions. Another thing you can do that I've heard is really efficient is also this. But I will say that this is really good, so if you're only doing PvP for the Mogtomes, I think this is better. I think. But, I mean, if you like PvP, if you're going to do PvP anyway, something that might be worth considering, speaking of PvP anyway, is I'm pretty sure this series ends when Dawn Trail comes out. So if you want this, then you can do both. Like, you get Mogtomes, and you get you get frontline XP, or well, series level. So that might be worth considering. Rival Wings is already popping on light. Really? Well, I want to mention something there. I do remember last season, Rival Wings was going crazy right at the start of the Mogtome event. And then, as it progressed and, you know, people finished, it started to, like, dwindle and then nosedive. And the reason why I know this, the reason why I remember this, is because I can't remember if it was last season or the season before that, but I remember, like, hearing that Rival Wings was good. I tried to queue for it, like, just to check it out. And I queued for, like, 30 minutes. And I feel like I queued at a decent time. I guess I was queuing on Chaos, so that was probably part of the problem. But the point is that as time passes, people will, like, stop doing Rival Wings because of this again. And then, like, start doing it for, like, being back to the people that do Rival Wings for Rival Wings. And I specifically remember this quite clearly because I remember that Coco had a lot of problems actually getting into content. Like, specifically Rival Wings. Like, they queued for 30 minutes, an hour, and didn't pop. Again, maybe because Chaos. If you want to PvP, probably you really don't want Chaos in your party. Well, then you should probably not do Frontline. Like, just hands down, you probably shouldn't be doing Frontline. It's like, you start, and you go hello, and the match begins, and, like, you can just, like, you look up into the sky, and for some reason the sky is just completely black. The only thing you can see is Chaos looking down on you and smiling, as your group just runs in 4 different directions. Or, alternatively, they all run in a specific direction for no particular reason. And sometimes, when it's really bad, your team just, like, runs in a specific direction, and it's almost like they just run into a different team, like, just run into them, and they just, like, disappear into the team, like a meat grind. They just... And that's when you know you're going to lose. Sometimes they just run in, and then they run away. Like, they get, like, and then they start running because they realize we're going to lose. But, yeah, Frontline is Chaos. You mean Battle Royale? A little bit. Yeah, Frontline is ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous. But yeah. Now that we've talked about the efficient ways to grind Mogtomes, I also want to finish off with saying that one of the massive upgrades to the Moogle Treasure Trove with the Mogpendium, as opposed to the old ways where you didn't have this, is that there are other ways to grind, like, to get Mogtomes than just spamming dungeons. There's not a lot. There's, like, you know, spamming dungeons, spamming raids, spamming PvP, gates, and ocean fishing. It's not that much, but it's more than there used to be. I'm just saying, if you want Mogtomes, but you don't want to spam dungeons or something, just go to the Gold Saucer and hang out. Like, just, if you've never been to the Gold Saucer, like, maybe you've never been to the Gold Saucer, maybe you've never, like, explored it for real, go there and just try stuff, and whenever it says, a gate has appeared, do that, and then just go back to exploring. There's a lot of stuff to do. It could be fun. And I don't know how much, like, you can easily need, like, 500 tomestones if, like, you don't have everything. But, if you focus on having fun with it, there's actually a huge amount of tomestones you just get for free, almost free, from these. Like, among these three, like if we assume you do all of the weekly objectives and the Ultimog, you'll get over 200 Mogtomes in this event. Over 200. So if you only need like 200, but you plan to do all of this, then you don't need to do anything other than that. You'll get everything you want. If you want more than that, or you want to finish early, you can do something else. Did you know you can queue for daily res with an incorrect spread? Yes, I did. Back when we did I've done that a little bit less more recently, but there was a time when I did oops all tanks and oops all healers. There's also been a time where I did oops all summoner and things like that. The joke was it was in the thumbnail, but I didn't anticipate my group would actually all switch. But because as long as you have a full pre-made, you're allowed to make your group composition whatever you like for your roulettes. As long as you provide the entire group, you can do whatever you like. Which means you can bring 4 tanks for expert roulette, or 4 healers for expert roulette, or 4 summoners for expert roulette. It's just your problem that you can't beat it. And I can inform you that 4 tanks can very easily beat dead ends, and 4 healers can very easily beat almost any dungeon in the game, surprisingly. 4 summoners cannot beat, or it seems to be unable to beat Lapis Manalis though, because they get worn down by AoE. At least we couldn't, with the coordination we had. And that is also a good point, Eaterit. I actually completely forgot about that. If you're the kind of person who's not in a rush to get all this done, remember that the Make It Rain campaign is starting like tomorrow, and during the Make It Rain campaign, if I remember correctly, MGP earnings are doubled. So like that's the perfect time to hang out in the Gold Saucer. Me and my FC may or may not have had 2 tanks and 2 DPS just now. Hopefully one of your tanks was a warrior. And hopefully it wasn't like leveling roulette and you landed in, like, I don't know, Aurum Vale. With 2 paladins. And like a monk. And a ninja. But, yeah. As I've said previously and kind of alluded to, it's not like the Mogtome event is that complicated, but it is an interesting thing to play with. Who's that Caetsu gone? So obviously there's not that much to it, but knowing strategies to get it done can be relevant. Some of you might be going, well, very nice that there's like a lot of weekly tomestones to be had. I go on holiday on so-and-so week and I'm not back until Dawn Trail, or I don't want to do Palace of the Dead, or my weekly task is something that I can't actually do because I'm on the free trial, or it's a task I can't do because I haven't reached Stormblood, or whatever. Then it's relevant to know what options you have, and Gold Saucer is something you can unlock at like level 15, I think. I can't remember if it was level 60 or 70 that there is an MSQ task. I think it was 60, where you're actually forced to unlock the Gold Saucer to progress. Paladin and Dark Knight and Sorkai. Whew, that's not a lot of self-healing. You have a red mage, maybe. But, yeah. I'll keep it in mind with the deep dungeon thing. I don't think we'd do it this week. I'll look into maybe next week or something. See what I can come up with. Maybe the week after that. Yeah, I'll see what I can do. Maybe I'll do a solo run. Maybe I'll grab a few friends. We'll see what we figure out. And hopefully I can make it entertaining in some way. Yeah. There's not that much else to say, I guess. Did I get anything here? No, I did not. Just Paladin with Clemency. Well, at level 60, Clemency costs 4,000. It's not that good. With that said, if you'd like to enjoy the company of the wonderful people in the stream chat, or me, or maybe you'd want to discuss some more Mogtome farming strategies, remember that there's the Discord community server that you can join. Link in the chat right now. You will also find the weekly schedule where you can see what else is coming up on the channel. Like, for instance, on Thursday, where we will be trying to beat Leviathan with as few players as possible. On Extreme, of course, as the Extreme Countdown. You can also find the announcement room where you'll find links to videos or streams when they come out, so you can, you know, see when they're coming out. And if you go to the role assignments room, you can grab the reminder role, and if you do, you'll get a notification whenever I post a video or a stream, so that you don't miss a second. And you get an additional notification around 15 minutes before stream starts, so that you can catch it actually when it opens, and I talk about the tutorial on unlocking them on Mogpendium and all that, and so on and so forth. And if you enjoyed this particular stream, it helps me a lot if you leave a like on it in the YouTube system, because that tells the YouTube algorithm that this was an enjoyable stream, maybe informational or whatever you deem, and it would recommend it to other people as well. So that, of course, helps me a lot. So thank you so much in advance. And you can, of course, also support the channel even more directly if you'd like. You can become a member, like many of the green names you can see in the chat right now. You can also gift memberships, and you can also use the super chat system. That helps me directly. If you don't want to use the YouTube stuff, or for some reason it's not enabled in your country or whatever, there's also a Ko-Fi link in the description, which might also not be enabled in your country. Who knows? Maybe they don't take your credit card, I heard. That's also a problem some people ran into. But there are some options if you would like to support me and the channel directly. With that said, I think that's everything I have. I think I've actually also gathered a big group, so for those that are here that are like, I can't possibly find a group for Palace of the Dead, you could, you know, try and shout out into here. You can see all these people gathered here. Many of them are community people, so maybe you can make a group if you like. With that said, thank you all so much for watching. Good night, good morning, afternoon, or evening, depending on where you are in the world, and I hope to see you all very soon. Bye-bye.